You know what would be hilarious? We should announce Riley's big promotion at the New Year's party and then tell everyone it doesn't exist. My mother said it casually, like she was discussing napkin colors, not planning to humiliate her own daughter in front of half the town. I was standing in the hallway, holding a hot dish of green bean casserole, frozen mid-step. They didn't know I'd come back from the kitchen. They didn't know I was 3 feet away. They didn't know I'd stopped breathing. My father laughed. Actually laughed. "Oh, that's good," he said. "Make her think we finally notice her. Then remind everyone she's still working that little bookstore job." My brother Noah snorted. "Hey, at least she's consistent. Still, the family underachiever." My sister Brooke chimed in, voice dripping with fake sympathy. "Maybe we should toast to her love life too. Like, here's to Riley. 31 and still single, but at least her cat loves her." They all chuckled. It felt like the floor tilted. I backed up a step, my shoulder bumping the wall. The casserole dish trembled in my hands. My mother's voice dropped lower, sharp and mean. She needs to be knocked down a peg. Lately she's been acting confident, like she thinks she belongs at the adult table. Dad added, "You'd think paying her car insurance and phone bill would be enough gratitude. She's still a parasite." A parasite. The word punched the air out of my lungs. I'd lived in that house the last year to help them after Dad's surgery. I'd handled grocery runs, cleaned, cooked, drove Mom to appointments, covered bills they didn't even know were late. But to them, I wasn't a daughter. I was an easy punchline. "New Year's Eve is perfect," Brooke said. "Everybody'll be there. We'll be on the mic anyway. One little joke. And she'll laugh along like she always does." "Yeah," Noah agreed. "She never fights back. She just takes it." I swallowed hard. They weren't wrong. I had always taken it. The digs, the eye rolls, the "when are you going to get a real job" comments, the "you're not like your brother and sister." But that's okay speeches. I'd told myself it was just their way, that all families were a little cruel, that I was being sensitive. But hearing them plot my humiliation like it was party entertainment, something cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically. Quietly. Like a seam finally giving way after years of pressure. I shifted the casserole dish to one hand, forcing my face into something neutral. Then I stepped into the dining room like I hadn't heard a thing. Mom pasted on her practiced smile. "There she is, Riley. Sweetheart. What took you so long? We're starving." Dad gestured to the empty spot at the end of the table. "Come on, kiddo. We saved your seat." My brother smirked. My sister brushed invisible lint off her designer dress. Avoiding my eyes, I set the dish down, sat, picked up my fork with hands that felt like stone. "Everything okay?" Mom asked. Just a hint of suspicion in her eyes. I met her gaze and did something I usually didn't. I lied. "Perfect," I said, my voice smooth. "Everything's perfect." But inside, something was shifting. If they thought I was going to stand under the New Year's Eve lights and let them tear me apart for laughs again, they didn't know me at all. This time, I wouldn't just endure it. I would listen, remember every word, and make sure that when midnight came, the only people humiliated in that room wouldn't be me. Before I go on with what happens next, thank you for staying with me through this first painful moment. If you've ever overheard people you love mocking you behind your back, your quiet support through a like, a comment, a share, or even a gentle subscribe truly means more than I can put into words. I'm genuinely grateful you're here with me, Growing up in the Monroe household meant learning early who you were allowed to be. Noah was the prodigy. Even though he'd changed majors 4 times and only graduated because Mom paid a professor to be understanding, Brooke was the beauty. The chosen daughter. The one whose pageant trophies still sat on a mantle Dad polished weekly like ritual. And me, I was the easy one. The kid who didn't complain, didn't argue, didn't ask for much, didn't cause trouble. In my mother's words, Riley's simple, low maintenance. Bless her heart. They said it like praise. But it wasn't. It was instruction. Be simple. Be easy. Be small, because the Monroe household already had enough stars. And someone had to clean up behind them, while Noah burned through internships and crashed cars. I took shifts at the grocery store to help pay insurance, while Brooke flew to Miami with her boyfriend for a self-care weekend. I cleaned the house and watched Dad recover from his second knee surgery. When Mom got her diagnosis last year, I moved home without hesitation. I cooked. I drove her to chemo. I managed Dad's pill schedule. I fixed the furnace when it died in February. I used my paycheck to cover electric bills when Mom forgot to pay them. And every time, they responded the same way. You're such a help. Riley, we'd be lost without you. You're the dependable one. Dependable. As if that was my entire personality. As if being useful was the only value I brought to the family. It never occurred to me that they didn't actually see me. Not as a daughter. Not as an equal. Just as labor. A quiet body that filled in the gaps. A comforting shadow who made their lives easier. The conditioning. If I cried growing up, Dad would sigh. Riley, don't make everything about you. If I got excited about something, a book, a hobby, a dream, Mom would say. Sweetheart, don't be dramatic. Keep your head down and just enjoy being part of the family. If I tried to stand up for myself, Brooke would laugh. There she goes again. Sensitive Riley. So eventually, I stopped standing up. Stopped asking for things. Stopped hoping for more. I blended into the background of my own life. It was easier than disappointing them. The breaking point. After dinner that night, I lay awake in the attic bedroom, the same one I'd slept in as a child. The same wallpaper. The same crooked window frame. The same feeling of being trapped in someone else's story. I replayed their voices. She's the underachiever. She never fights back. She's a parasite. She needs to be knocked down a peg. A peg. After everything I'd done, something inside me twisted tight. Then snapped. Quietly. Dangerously. I sat up in bed. My jaw clenched. This wasn't just about a New Year's joke. This was habitual cruelty. Reflexive disrespect. A deeply rooted belief that I existed to be the family's punchline. And for years, I let them. Because I loved them. Because I wanted to be easy. Because I thought being good meant being quiet. But tonight, hearing them plot to humiliate me again, deliberately, gleefully was the first time I saw them clearly. They weren't joking. They enjoyed it. Breaking me was entertainment. And, suddenly, I wasn't the same version of Riley anymore. This time, I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to shrink. I wasn't going to endure. I was going to watch, listen, plan. And when New Year's Eve arrived, the only people embarrassed would be the ones who assumed I'd stay silent forever. New Year's Eve arrived dressed in glitter and noise. The Monroe family hosted the biggest event in our town every year, a sprawling party at the community hall, complete with catered appetizers, gold streamers, and a stage where my parents loved to thank everyone for supporting the family. Translation: they loved being applauded. I stood in the doorway of the hall. staring at the room as it buzzed with energy. Strings of lights draped across the ceiling. People in sequins and suits hugged and laughed. Music thumped beneath the chatter, and at the center of it all, like royalty greeting their subjects, stood my family. Mom in a red velvet dress, Dad holding a champagne flute like a prop, Noah bragging loudly to his friends, Brooke posing for photos with her sorority sisters. It should have hurt. It didn't. Because tonight, I wasn't the Riley they remembered. I walked in slowly, deliberately. Enough people turned to look that Mom spotted me almost instantly. She blinked in surprise before her face shifted into her well-practiced, faux sweet expression. Riley, there you are. Sweetheart. We weren't sure you'd come. I smiled gently. I wouldn't miss it. Dad clapped me on the shoulder. Good. Stick close, we have a special moment planned. I bet you do. I thought, but I simply nodded. My siblings exchanged excited glances like children waiting to open gifts they already peeked at. The stage is set around 1145 p.m. Mom tapped the microphone on stage. Everyone, gather around, it's almost midnight. And we'd love to take a moment to celebrate family. People drifted closer. Cameras lifted. Someone turned down the music. Dad stepped up beside her, grinning proudly. And he continued, we want to highlight each of our wonderful children tonight. Noah puffed his chest. Brooke adjusted her hair. And I stood still. Hands loosely folded. Heart steady. Mom began with Noah, his promotions, his networking. Then Brooke. Her pageant work. Her volunteer hours. The crowd applauded politely. Then my mother turned to me, wearing a smile so sugary it could rot teeth. And finally, our Riley. A hush settled. I could feel Noah vibrating with anticipation, Brooke biting her lip to keep from smiling too wide. As you all know, Mom said, Riley is our most unique child. Laughter rippled. A few raised eyebrows. Dad leaned in conspiratorially. She's been working at the bookstore downtown doing her best. I felt dozens of eyes land on me. Sympathetic. Curious. Pitying. Brooke took the mic for the dramatic blow. And tonight, she said brightly, we want to announce Riley's big promotion. People clapped. Some cheered. I stayed still. Dad nodded at Brooke. Go on. Sweetheart. Tell them. Brooke beamed. She's now head of customer smiles. A punchline. A cheap, cruel, childish punchline. Laughter exploded across the hall. Someone actually snorted. Noah doubled over. Mom dabbed fake tears of mirth. A few strangers whispered, Is she serious? My family looked at me expectantly, waiting for the punchline reaction they knew so well, the forced laugh. The downcast eyes. The quiet little shrug that said, It's okay. I deserve it. But I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. I didn't shrink. I simply breathed in and let every voice in that room fade. Then I smiled calm, composed, unfazed. And I turned around. While they were still laughing, still clapping, still congratulating themselves on another successful humiliation, I walked out of the hall. Not fast. Not shaken. Just done. The cold air outside felt cleaner than any apology they'd never offer. Behind me, the countdown to midnight echoed faintly. 10, 9, 8. I stepped into the darkness. Not alone. Not broken, but finally becoming the version of myself they were never prepared to face. New Year's morning felt strangely quiet. Not the cheerful kind of quiet, the aftermath kind. the kind that lingers after something breaks. I sat on the bus bench outside the community hall, still wearing the same dress from the night before, breathing in the cold air until it stung. My phone buzzed with messages. Mom, Riley. Where did you go? You embarrassed us. Brooke, if you're going to be dramatic, at least do it in private. Noah, you ruined the timing of the countdown. Dad, grow up. Not one message asked if I was okay. Not one message apologized. Not one message even said Happy New Year. I muted the group chat. Then I walked home, packed my things into 2 suitcases, and left the house key on the kitchen table. No note. No explanation. If they couldn't bother to care, I wouldn't bother to explain. The small apartment on Willow Street, I found a room above a florist shop on the poorer side of town. It smelled like lavender and old carpet. The window leaked cold air. The shower made a rattling sound like it might fall apart. But it was mine. For the first time in years. I didn't have to tiptoe. Didn't have to perform. Didn't have to brace myself for a comment. A sigh. An insult disguised as concern. I got a second job shelving books at a library. A third gig doing late-night inventory for a craft store. None of it made much money. But all of it made me feel something new. Alive. Free. Untethered. Some nights, exhaustion hit me like a wave. But it was the kind of exhaustion that came from building something, not from fixing someone else's mess. The breakthrough I didn't expect. 2 weeks after the New Year's party disaster. I was shelving returns at the library when I heard a familiar voice. Riley, I turned and froze. It was Mrs. Dawson, my high school English teacher, one of the only adults who ever treated me like I mattered. She looked me over gently. You look tired. Sweetheart. You okay? Something inside me cracked again, but softer this time. She didn't ask what I did wrong. She didn't ask how I embarrassed the family. She asked if I was okay. No, I said quietly. But I'm trying. She nodded, as if she already knew. Then she said the sentence that changed everything. I might know someone who needs help. Someone looking for an assistant who's organized, patient, and good with people. I blinked. Me, yes. As you. She smiled. I've always known you were capable of more than your family allowed you to believe. My throat tightened. No one had ever said that to me before, not without an insult attached. Who is it? I asked. A journalist, she said. Investigative. He's working on a story about workplace bullying and familial abuse. He needs someone who understands it from the inside. I stared at her. A job. An opportunity. A door leading somewhere, anywhere other than the life I'd just left. Would you like me to give him your number? She asked. I exhaled. Yes. I whispered. Please. The start of something new. That night. In my tiny Willow Street apartment. I sat on my mattress on the floor and stared at my phone. Waiting. For once. Not for my family's approval, but for my own beginning. At 9:12 p.m. A text appeared. Hello. Riley. This is Julian Parker. I heard you might be interested in helping me expose some real problems. Want to talk? I smiled. A real smile, the kind that grew from within. Not the polite one I'd worn my entire life. This wasn't escape. This was emergence. Before we continue, thank you for staying with me through this quiet, difficult transformation. If you've ever had to rebuild yourself after being torn down, your gentle support through a like, comment, share, or even a soft subscribe truly means more than I can express. I'm grateful you're here with me. Julian Parker did not look like the kind of journalist who exposed empires. He was quiet, thoughtful, always scribbling notes in messy handwriting. He wore glasses slightly crooked on one ear and kept multiple pens in his shirt pocket like he expected an idea to attack him at any moment. But the first thing he said to me wasn't about work. It was, "Riley, you don't deserve what happened to you." No one had ever said that out loud. Not even me. We met at a coffee shop near the library, the kind with mismatched chairs and warm lighting. He slid a folder toward me. "I'm working on a piece about how emotional abuse inside families often disguises itself as tradition or jokes." He paused. "Would you consider helping me with insight?" I swallowed. "You want my family as an example. I want to understand how it feels," he said gently. "Only if you're willing." I nodded. Because for the first time, telling the truth felt less like betrayal and more like freedom. The first clue. As we talked, one detail slipped out, something I hadn't meant to say. My parents volunteer at the community center a lot. They like being seen. Julian raised an eyebrow. Being seen, or controlling the narrative? I blinked. "What do you mean?" He pulled out his laptop and typed quickly. "Your mother sits on the event committee for multiple town programs. Your father processes donations for the end-of-year charity drive. Your siblings organize small fundraisers." So I asked. "So," he said, turning the screen toward me. "Every event they touch seems to have financial inconsistencies." I stared at the numbers, missing receipts, mismatched donation totals, invoices repeating under slightly different names. My stomach tightened. "And then Julian said it, Riley. I think your family is skimming public funds." The words hit me so hard I forgot how to breathe. "No," I whispered. "They're awful. Yes, selfish. Yes, but criminals, no." He didn't push. He just slid over another file. "Then explain this. A list of payments. Small, $300 here. $500 there, but consistent. All directed to variations of the same vendor name. Monroe Services LLC, Monroe Community Logistics MNR Solutions. Fake companies with suspiciously familiar initials." I stared at the screen. Brooke's handwriting on a receipt scan. Dad's signature approving a transfer. Mom's name on a purchase order for supplies that never arrived. My pulse thudded in my ears. "They're using the community center events as a cover," Julian said quietly. "And they're planning something big next month, the annual Winter Relief Gala." I whispered. "Mom said she had something special planned for that night." Julian leaned back. "Riley, I think they're going to pin the missing funds on you." My throat closed. He continued. Voice steady. "They humiliated you on purpose at New Year's. Because humiliation weakens credibility. If you become the town joke, then no one will believe you when the scandal breaks." My entire body went cold. This time, they weren't planning emotional cruelty. This time, they were planning character assassination. And I, stupid, trusting, invisible me, had been handing them opportunities on a silver platter for years. I met Julian's eyes. "What do I do?" He lowered his voice. "You fight back. But you do it smart." He placed the folder between us. "We gather proof. Every receipt, every signature, every transfer, every lie." I swallowed. "You want me to expose my own family?" "No," he said softly. "I want you to tell the truth. They'll expose themselves." For the first time in weeks, I felt something heavy inside me start to lift. Not rage, not fear. Resolve. If my family wanted to turn me into a scapegoat, they were about to learn what happens when the easy child stops being easy. The Winter Relief Gala was the kind of event my parents lived for. Gold tablecloths, candlelit chandeliers, a local news crew recording the whole thing. Town officials in their best suits, donors, teachers, business owners, everyone who shaped our little world. Perfect. Exactly the audience they needed. And the audience I needed too. I walked in wearing a simple black dress, nothing flashy, nothing loud, but somehow, people still turned to stare. Maybe they felt the shift in me. Maybe I was finally standing like someone who wasn't afraid. Julian stayed near the back, hidden behind the AV booth. He tapped his phone once. Ready. The files were loaded. My heartbeat was steady. Tonight, everything ended. The announcement at 8:43 p.m. Mom stepped onto the stage, smiling like a queen presenting tribute. "Thank you all for being here," she began, voice warm and polished. "Before we continue, we need to address a deeply concerning matter within our community program." My stomach tightened. Here it comes. Dad joined her. Holding a stack of papers he pretended to review. "It has come to our attention that significant funds have gone missing from recent charitable events," he said gravely, "and, unfortunately, the evidence points to someone very close to us." Heads turned. Whispers rose. People glanced around the room, curious and eager for scandal. My siblings stood near the stage, faces full of rehearsed sadness. Mom placed a hand dramatically over her heart. "This is difficult. But we must do what's right. We must identify the person responsible." Dad inhaled, preparing to say my name. But I stepped forward before the words left his mouth. "Actually," I said, my voice cutting through the room. "Why don't I help you with that?" the crowd gasped. My mother's smile shattered. Brooke's eyes went wide. Noah mouthed. "What are you doing?" Dad's jaw clenched. "Riley, sit down. This doesn't concern you. It concerns me," I said calmly. "Because you were about to blame me." Again, a ripple of shock moved through the audience. Mom snapped. "This is not the time, oh." "I think it's exactly the time." Julian tapped the laptop, and the screen behind them lit up. The evidence, slide after slide, appeared, each more incriminating than the last. Fake vendor invoices, approved by Mom, paid by Dad, deposited into Brooke's personal account. Mom gasped. "Turn that off," I kept my voice soft. "It's public record now." Another slide. Purchase orders signed for supplies that never arrived. The handwriting, Noah's. He shook his head violently. That's photoshopped." Then a video clip. Julian had filtered the audio and enhanced clarity. It was my family. At the dinner, laughing about humiliating me at New Year's. Brooke's voice echoed through the hall. "She never fights back. She just takes it." Mom's voice followed. "She needs to be knocked down a peg." People in the audience gasped out loud. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." My parents turned pale. No one could speak. So I did. The confrontation. For years. I said, "You used community events to skim money. You hid it under fake charities and false vendor names. And when things started unraveling, you needed a scapegoat." I paused. "You chose me." Dad roared. "Enough. You are humiliating this family." "No." I said, stepping closer. "I am revealing this family." The screen shifted again, the final document. A plan written by my mother if questioned. "Redirect suspicion to Riley. She's quiet. Easy to discredit." A horrified silence spread across the hall. Mom covered her mouth, shaking. Brooke's mascara streaked. Noah stared at the floor, defeated. I looked at them with a kind of sadness, not for who they were, but for who they chose to be. This wasn't a mistake, I said softly. It was a strategy. I stepped aside. Julian shut off the screen. The collapse. The mayor demanded an immediate investigation. Donors pulled their contributions. Volunteers walked out. The news crew rushed the stage with microphones. My family spiraled. Mom sobbed that it was taken out of context. Dad cursed the projector. Brooke ran to the bathroom. Noah tried to blame Mom and Dad. But for the first time in my life, no one blamed me. No one laughed at me. No one dismissed me. They listened. They believed me. Because this time, I didn't walk away quietly. This time, I told the truth loud enough for everyone to hear. The morning after the gala, my phone buzzed nonstop. Not with insults. Not with demands. Not with commands from people who thought they owned me. This time, it buzzed with headlines. Monroe family under investigation for misuse of community funds. Whistleblower daughter exposes fraud at Winter Relief Gala. Town leaders demand resignation of Monroe committee members. For the first time in my life, the word Monroe wasn't followed by praise, but consequences. And none of those consequences were mine. The collapse of the Monroe image within days. The community board suspended both my parents. The mayor froze all Monroe-managed funds pending investigation. Donors demanded audits of previous events. Volunteers confirmed irregularities going back years. A state investigator requested interviews with every family member. Noah tried to blame Brooke. Brooke tried to blame Mom. Mom tried to blame Dad. Dad blamed a smear campaign. But everyone had seen the truth with their own eyes. This time, there was no version of reality they could manipulate. And for once, I didn't feel guilty. A new career. A new identity. Julian met me at the same cafe where we'd first talked. You were incredible, he said quietly. Sliding into the seat across from me, I was terrified. I admitted. Being terrified doesn't make it less brave. He handed me a folder. This is my editor's offer. They want you to join our team as an assistant researcher. Part-time for now. But it could grow. I opened the folder. My eyes stung. It was real. A real job. A real future. A role that didn't require me to dim myself for other people's comfort. You don't owe your family your silence, Julian added. You owe yourself your voice. For the first time in my life, I felt worthy of one. Healing in small moments. My apartment on Willow Street didn't change. Still tiny. Still a little cold. Still cluttered with library books and half-finished mugs of tea. But I had changed. I slept better. I breathed deeper. I stood straighter. Some nights, I caught myself waiting for a text from Mom, or a guilt message from Dad, or Brooke insisting I apologize, or Noah pretending none of it happened. But the silence that came instead wasn't painful. It was peaceful. A quiet I'd never experienced before, because my life had always been too full of their noise. The letter I didn't expect, 2 weeks after the gala. I found a small envelope in my mailbox. No return address. Just my name. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Riley, you did the right thing. Some of us always knew you were stronger than they allowed you to be. Keep going. No signature. But I recognized the handwriting. Mrs. Dawson. The only adult who ever believed I was more than the easy one. I pressed the note to my chest. Letting the truth of it settle somewhere deep, I did the right thing. And I was stronger than they ever understood. The ending they never saw coming on a quiet Sunday afternoon. I stood outside my apartment building, watching the sun melt into the rooftops of my new neighborhood. I wasn't rich. I wasn't powerful. I wasn't the Monroe heir or the family scapegoat. I was simply a woman who finally chose herself. I whispered into the breeze, I'm free. Not from responsibility. Not from family. But from the version of me they tried to keep small forever. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying them. It's becoming someone they can no longer hurt. Thank you for staying with me to the very end. If Riley's journey resonated with something in your own life, your gentle support, through a like, a comment, a share, or even a quiet subscribe truly means more than I can put into words. I'm grateful you walked this path with me.